Welcome back to our next episode of Business Breakthroughs. I'm delighted to be joined by Dr. Amy Loden Tiffany. She is a board certified physician and founder of Vitality Medical and Wellness Consulting. She helps women to optimize their metabolic, hormonal, and cardiovascular health through evidence-based concierge care. She's also a certified menopause practitioner and life coach. She offers personalized programs to help reverse chronic disease and promote longevity. Welcome, Dr. Amy.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Glad to have you. So, tell us more about your journey. You have a very interesting journey into where you are today. So, can you tell us a little bit about that in a nutshell?
Absolutely. I thought I would be one of those physicians at an elite academic center all my life.
Mhm,
I learned very quickly that I like creating things and making new rules and not necessarily following the status quo. So
mhm,
I had to leave academic medicine.
mhm,
Thought, well, I'll just join a corporate practice. So that was great until it wasn't. What that meant was that I was working 40 hours a week in the clinic and then another 10 to 20 on the weekends and nights.
mhm.
My 7-year-old came up to me one night and said, "Why do you love your job more than me?"
Oh,
And that was enough. It's like, I'm done.
like done.
So that was my catalyst moment for saying, all right, I want freedom in my life. I want to be in control, not just of the little decisions, but when I'm working, where I'm working, et cetera. And I want to be able to show up in my best sense as a mom and
Mhm.
in my best sense as a physician. So that's my story in a nutshell.
Yes, love it. And it's like, gosh, boy, kids, they just give it to you, don't they?
Uh-huh. Yes. Yes.
Ah, yes.
7.
So, what were your goals when you started Vitality, and how have those shifted in the years in your business?
Mhm. So we opened in June of 21, right in the middle of the pandemic. I had 4 kids. 7 was my oldest, and my youngest were the twins who at the time were a year old.
Yeah.
And my real goal was just to escape the rat race, to
Mhm.
get off the hamster wheel, to use my rodent analogy twice,
Mhm.
but really to take control back. I wanted, for me, freedom looked like choosing my own hours. It looked like having a say in who I was seeing and who I was helping. In the systems I was in before, it was just whoever the system assigned me.
Yeah.
And that's fine because everyone needs help,
Mhm.
but not everyone needs help the same way, especially if there's a certain thing that for me is very powerful and is what I'm passionate about. I mean, I don't know many dudes who really want to hear about menopause,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And women who don't have children aren't concerned about postpartum issues. And so being able to really tailor my practice to help these two groups of women I spend the most time with to me was vitally important. You only have one life.
Yeah.
You only have so much time you can spend at work. And so if I'm going to be at work, I want to be maximizing my impact by helping the people who I can help the most.
Yeah.
That's how I came to the decision to do this offering for this unique niche.
Mhm.
But
And
a
then,
lot of it was about freedom.
yes. And how have your goals changed, or have they changed since you started your practice?
Yeah, so I think they always will change. And maybe that's just the way my brain thinks as an entrepreneur. But I sense that once I have reached one level of accomplishment in my goals, a new level opens up and one where I perhaps didn't think I would be. So, for example, when we started the practice, we weren't really focused on longevity medicine.
Mhm.
We wanted to do good preventative care. But
Mhm.
over the last 4, almost going into 5 years now, we've really shifted to say it's great to do good preventative medicine for the year, but what about for the lifetime?
Mhm.
How do we make an impact over decades instead of just weeks to months?
Mhm.
So it's a much more long term focus that we have now.
Mhm.
We spend a lot of time with our clients more than we would in a traditional practice anyway, but being able to leverage that time in a way that people can be impacted much more quickly
Mhm.
is important to me. In the
Yeah.
traditional system, if I tell someone to work on your cholesterol, I might not see them back for 6 months or a year. And by that time, a new habit has been ingrained. In the
Sure.
new system, we can see people every month. Say, well,
Mhm.
that didn't work. Let's try a new habit instead
Yes.
and continue to optimize.
Mhm.
In the old system, I wasn't able to leverage health coaches in our practice. And today we have 3 board certified health coaches working with us and really helping people with the granular details of practical change.
Yeah.
Anyone can go to their doctor's appointment and say, you need to lose weight. That's great. We all want to lose weight, but how do you do it?
Or the
How do you make it
maintenance,
work
right?
for you?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
building habits and having somebody hold you
Correct.
accountable. And should I be eating this? Should I be taking this supplement? What should I be doing?
Correct.
And having access to someone who can help guide them through that.
Correct. And
Mhm.
part of that story is challenging your beliefs, challenging what you were taught by people who loved you, who were doing the best they could, but accidentally taught you information that wasn't correct.
Yeah.
So, really getting into nitty-gritty things that make a difference, and to do that at a faster rate so that you can have a bigger impact for longer
Yeah.
is very important to us.
Absolutely. So, in your time in business, it's been coming on 4 years now.
Yep.
Congratulations.
Mhm.
Um, I would imagine, like any other business, it's not without its setbacks or challenges. So, is there anything within that time period that you can recall or pinpoint a moment where you had to make a shift and work through that to get on the other side?
There's two things that come to mind. The first year, I feel like I was just trying to put out fires, just trying to survive, right? Figuring out how insurance companies really worked, what it really meant to have to collect copays and deductibles without a front desk person, things that you take for granted because somebody else in healthcare is managing those.
Sure.
The second
The
year,
technical side, the back office
exactly, the
side.
stuff that I
Sure.
don't need to know to be a doctor, right?
Yes.
Until I'm the business owner. So having
Mhm.
to put on that different hat and
Yeah.
understand the business of medicine. So the first year, even going into the second, was a lot of just figuring out what the basics were.
Mhm.
By the third year, though, I had started to realize, there's a pattern setting in, and there's trends that aren't necessarily where I want them to be if I'm wearing my business owner hat.
Mhm.
And I need to explore these further. And so, one pretty dramatic thing I did was to start working with you as a coaching partner to say, how do we optimize
Mhm.
this in a way that's going to be meaningful and sustainable? The second way was challenging my own limiting beliefs. Just like I tell my patients, you got to change what you think you know.
Mhm.
Asking myself, is what I think I know really what is best?
Mhm.
And the example I'll give you that is everyone knows and has heard of going to your doctor for your annual exam. Everyone. Like
Mhm.
that's just part of it.
Right.
And within healthcare, most people want their doctor to do their wellness visit.
Mhm.
They want to see them, which is a little bit backwards if you think about it, because when do you need to see your doctor? I mean, the scriptures tell us, Jesus says the sick are the ones who need a doctor, not the healthy, right? So it's a little bit different when you think about who's delivering care in the United States. And for us, we had been in that kind of placeholder of, well, the doctor will do the wellness visit, which then meant our nurse practitioners were stuck with all the sick visits. And
Mm.
simple sick visits is great for them. They know that stuff in and out.
Yeah.
But really complex medical conditions where you have heart failure and kidney failure and liver disease,
Mhm.
you really want somebody whose training is optimized for that.
Mhm.
So we did a total paradigm shift and
Mm.
we said, is it true that the physician needs to do the wellness visit? Is it true?
Mhm.
And we actually created an entirely new system. I've never seen it in another system, but we created a system where our nurse practitioner does our wellness visit. And then we create a formalized, personalized report for each
Mm.
patient who goes through that process. It's three
Mhm.
to 5 pages long that tells them here's all your health threats, here's your health opportunities. Let's play the long game. Let's not just get you to next year, let's get you to the next 10 and 20 years.
Mhm.
And Julie, it's the only thing in my medical business that I have ever done where 100% of my clients who've done it have approved it.
Mhm.
100%. You don't hear those statistics in business.
Mhm.
That is phenomenal to me. And that came because we challenged our beliefs.
Yeah. Yep.
So those would be the two things. One is getting a coach, and one is challenging my beliefs about what needed to happen,
Mhm.
which then frees me up to be much more involved in the sickest patients, which is what needs to happen anyway. So it was a win-win.
Yeah. Well, and for you as the owner, because you're doctor and CEO, right,
Hmm.
of Vitality, it allows you to also spend time in strategy. So
Hmm.
it's not just, in the day-to-day serve the patients, moving through this practice in that way. It's building the practice because you're taking this places. You want to impact as many people as possible. And I applaud you for doing that because I think there are so many beliefs that limit us, one as humans, but especially in business, whether it comes to time, money, relationships, whatever that might be, that the fact that you were able to look at that to see, okay, how can I best use my nurse you implicitly trust and who is amazing at what she does, while also focusing on the areas that you bring the most value as the doctor and the CEO.
Yes.
Mhm. Powerful step. You heard it here. So You're currently serving what close to 300 patients in your concierge practice, and that's not by default, right? There's obviously ways that you bring in value to your patients. So if you would tell our listeners a bit more about how you continue to build in value, or is there a process that you run through to be able to continue to keep those patients as well as attract new patients?
Yeah, I think there are many layers here. First of all, it's understanding that value is not defined by me, it's defined by the client, my patients, right? So what do my patients find that's valuable? They find longer appointments. They find ease of communication.
Mhm.
They find meaningful data. So anybody can go to the lab and get any blood test drawn, but what do they do with that data?
Mhm.
And so identifying what are the most helpful tests that we can run for each person. And I'll tell you, one of the tests that we offered it was actually a gentleman, but in this example, but we do this to we offer this to all our adults, was a coronary artery scan.
Mhm.
And that scan is meant to pick up calcifications of the heart arteries and helps us know this person's high risk of heart disease. But it inevitably also picks up if there's abnormalities of the aorta.
Mhm.
And this is not a test covered by insurance. So this gentleman had decided to do it. And what was interesting through the whole process is we now know today if he hadn't done it, he would have died
Mhm.
because it picked up an aneurysm that he now is getting surgically corrected. That if he's no symptoms.
Mhm.
And I've had this happen multiple times with the types of things we do. We have found many women whose cholesterol looks fine
Mhm.
if you go by standard guidelines, but then you do a lipoprotein little a test, which very few people run,
Mhm.
but we do that as part of our annual wellness. And it'll find that there's massive elevations. And this is a mutation they can't control. They can't fix it with their lifestyle. Remember, their cholesterol is not too bad.
Mhm.
But with this
It wouldn't show
mutation,
up in a normal
it
test.
won't.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
yet, a massive study in the New England Journal of Medicine last fall showed that women who have this mutation are extraordinarily high risk for heart disease,
Mhm.
stroke, heart failure. A
Mhm.
blood test,
Yeah.
less than $100. And
Mhm.
that one is covered by insurance. So it's just for me being able to offer value in these ways
Mhm.
is immense because they can't get it somewhere else.
Right.
And yet,
The extra steps that you can take based on the individual patient and what they need. Well, maybe they won't necessarily have symptoms, but you know in your experience and you have access to these tools.
correct. And
Mhm.
that's where people find value. They find value in something that impacts their life.
Mhm.
So I might think it's valuable for somebody to come in and see me once a year, but they may find value in seeing Anna once a year. What they care about is what happens in their life.
Yep.
So we try to design everything in our practice around one, is it evidence-based, right? If we can find science to support it, we want to do it. If it's not evidence-based, like this coronary scan, but there's enough data to say it could change how we practice, then I offer it to people.
Yeah. Mhm.
I don't go and offer every single test that's available. But
Mhm.
we want to find things that would impact people's choices, their habits, their behaviors, their beliefs. And that I think is the crux of what any of us want from our doctor in the healthcare system is we want to do the things we can control, knowing that none of us will live forever, but
Mhm.
how can we live longer better?
Mhm.
And that's what we try to give people value by doing.
Yeah, that's great. So, would you mind sharing? So, you're continuing to grow your practice and be able to impact more people. And it's so interesting because you are working on and starting to incorporate, as well as incorporating some marketing strategies that are even outside maybe the status quo for a typical medical practice. So, would you mind sharing with our listeners what's a top marketing strategy, I guess, that you have used that does work for your business, as well as what can we expect and what can we expect to see in a new strategy that you're incorporating?
So part of this goes back to the value question. Where are we adding value? And because we've limited the number of people who we take on as clients, that gives me time to do other things that provide value to people who may not be our client, for example.
Mhm.
And so for the most part, we have 5 different social media avenues that we put out daily videos and posts on.
Mhm.
And those people who live in other countries, who live in our own country in different places, can access, right? So they can still learn and hear the value that we're giving our own clients. So that's one value add that's part of our marketing because we do get people locally who come in from that.
Sure.
The second one is still a little bit in process, and it has to do with a book that I'm finishing about postpartum weight loss.
Mhm.
And we have a workbook that's on Amazon that anyone can get, which gives people access to my teaching. But this book that we're finishing will be out probably in early June that you can expect. And that is something I think is going to add a lot of value to people who will never be our clients as well. So
Mhm.
both of those are marketing strategies in themselves. They were created to add value, but they
Yes.
really are also marketing. In terms of other marketing, I think many business owners find that word of mouth is pretty
Mhm.
common. We try to capitalize on anything we can, of course, in that method, but there's a certain plateau that happens because
Mhm.
you only have so many people who are going to speak so much at a time. And so, where we're looking at next in our marketing strategies is really how do we capitalize the social media question better?
Mhm.
Everybody's on social media. So, how do you really do good communication? And my strategy right now is teaching.
Mhm.
There's a lot of misinformation. So, going into social Facebook groups and really saying, here's quality information, here's the link, go check it out,
Sure.
rather than advertising myself, because some of those people do come back to you and they do
Mhm.
say, oh, who is this person? They have good quality information. I want to know more.
Yeah.
So, those are the three primary ways we've done it slash are doing it.
Mhm.
Uh, one of the frustrating things I find, and this is me having to try to create a marketing hat, right, is I don't intrinsically love marketing. And
Mhm.
so it's a real stretch for me to have to look at this and say, where do I put my energy and where do I do it in a way that's not depleting and draining myself?
Mhm.
Uh, but I think that's probably every business owner's
Mhm.
quandary.
Yeah. It depends. I mean, some they love the marketing or they hate the sales, or they love the sales, but they hate the finances, right? It's the you have to, if you're in business, you're in sales, right? If you're in business, you have to market, whether you do it yourself or you outsource. And at some point you get to a point where you can outsource. But it's just like you said, like, what is it? Who is your target audience or audiences? What are their pain points? What is the solution that you offer, and what are the results that they can get if they come and work with you? And I highly recommend that you follow Dr. Amy on social. She gives some really great information and in short snippets, and it's all valuable. And it's like, oh, especially for perimenopause, menopause, and there's one other topic that you've been focused
Probably weight loss. We do
on.
quite a
Yes.
bit of those weight loss.
Yes. And so these little nuggets where you can get these tips and things on your own, but then at some point you do need to reach out and get some support in that way. So as far as speaking goes as well, that is something that you continue to do and be a presence for people. So you did a TEDx talk recently, and so people could find that on YouTube. And then as far as other speaking engagements, where are you looking to be able to come and speak to people to make an impact?
I'll speak on any stage anywhere. I have been accused by my mother at as early as the age of 4 of being able to speak incessantly to anyone.
Yeah.
So this is a lifelong
If you
habit of
have a
mine.
stage,
Uh-huh.
she's here for
That's
it.
right. Sign me up. Let's go.
Yes.
Um, it is really fascinating to me when people say public speaking is their greatest fear,
Mhm.
because I just cannot understand that.
Mhm.
I can understand spiders and snakes and dark, but when somebody said it, it's just so atypical for me because apparently all I did as a child was talk.
Mhm.
Um, I think that to answer your question, the TEDx was really important and near and dear to me because none of us know how much time we have,
Mhm.
but my own pregnancies predicted that I would have a short lifespan. And
Mhm.
so I had this constant driving desire to get information out there because I don't know how much time I have, right? And it may have nothing to do with what my pregnancies predicted, but the truth is none of us know how much time we have.
Mhm.
And there's no urgency to do anything for most of us until something life-threatening
Yeah.
happens. And so for me, after I did have a life-threatening pregnancy, after that, I really felt like that was something I was passionate to do was
You're
get this
called.
TED Talk out there,
Mhm.
this TEDx.
Mhm.
Wanted to get the book out there. And I just wanted people to have something before that was lost
Yeah.
to humanity, if you will.
Mhm.
In terms of other speaking, I historically have spoken at a lot of medical conferences,
Mhm.
and that's fine, but my audience there is not the one I'm trying to impact, right? All of
Mhm.
those are physicians or nurses and advanced practitioners, and that's not who I need my heart's heavy to serve.
Mhm.
And that's really why I've pivoted and started doing more, I'm going to call them non-medical conferences. So in a couple weeks, I'm speaking to the Florida Business Women's Association group, and we're talking about perimenopause and what that
Mm,
looks like and what are the common things that come up for that. I recently talked to a group of nutritionists about what is going on in the world of health and
mm,
eating and all the noise we're hearing. Is it good? Is it wrong? What do I make of it?
mhm,
And really, that's what I care about is talking to people about the stuff that impacts their daily life and really challenging the ideas of what exists
mhm,
and what is true. And for example, I don't think most people should eat a balanced diet.
mm,
A balanced diet is balanced for the person who's metabolically well in a normal, healthy weight.
mm,
90% of us aren't like that. It might
mhm,
be more than that. Don't quote me on that statistic, but it's a significant majority
mm.
that aren't balanced. So why are we telling them to eat a balanced diet? And yet
What
that
does
is
balance
exactly what
mean? I mean,
correct.
it
And
means
that's what
so many
everyone's
different
told.
things now. So yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So those are things that in the speaking world, I intend to go down more deeply into
Hmm.
as those opportunities exist. But yeah, if you need somebody to talk to, I'm happy to talk.
Great. Awesome. Well, so how can people get in touch with you or Vitality?
I think the easiest way is to follow on social. You're welcome to send us an email. You can check out our website, vitalitymwc.org. But the social channels, we try to post on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. At Dr. Amy Tiffany is where you can find me on those. And I really try to answer people's questions. So a
Mhm.
lot of the things that you'll see me addressing are questions they've been asked or popular questions about certain topics.
Yes.
And so if there's questions that you want answered, throw those out there and we'll make a video about it for you because if you're having that question, someone else is too.
Yeah,
And the
absolutely.
value we can give you is an answer that's evidence-based and practical and meaningful.
Great. And if you are you're looking to make change and or if you're looking to maintain, right? I highly recommend that you reach out and have a conversation. So,
Absolutely.
yeah. Thank you, Dr. Amy, for being here.
You're
And
welcome.
thank you, everybody, for listening in. Be sure and drop your top BFOs, blinding flashes of the obvious, in the comments. And we'll look forward to seeing you soon. Take care.